What does a $7 million Super Bowl ad from Temu have to do with how the global AI bubble might eventually pop? It's 2023, Super Bowl night in America. You see the usual brands on screen: Coca-Cola, Nike, maybe the new Avengers trailer, and then in the middle of America's most premium advertising slot, a bright orange animation starts playing. It's Temu. At the time, no one in America really knew what it was, just a Chinese shopping app with one message: shop like a billionaire. A Chinese shopping app inside one of the most expensive advertising slots on earth. But for anyone paying attention to how global powers were shifting, that was the moment, the first clue that the world was already changing. For us as investors trying to make sense of global markets, understanding this shift is important because it explains how technology cycles actually move and why bubbles eventually burst. For years, Chinese factories were producing the products, made in China. When young American entrepreneurs were finding ways to make these products go viral, they would do dropshipping, rebranding of white labeled products. They handled the storytelling, marketing on TikTok and Facebook. In the eyes of the Chinese factories, this was the easy part, while China handled the hard part: the factories, the logistics, inventory, cross-border trade. But by 2023, China realized something simple. They had already mastered the low-end manufacturing, so why not move up the value chain and take sales and marketing too? Temu bypassed the wholesalers and Amazon sellers and walked straight into the household of Americans. For the average person, it showed up as fun videos on TikTok, Temu hauls for under $100, huge bags of items delivered for the price of a dinner. But for policymakers in Washington, they knew this was not about shopping. It was about power and China's influence in America. American politicians could already see China's rise and were trying to do everything they could to slow them down. The flood of cheap clothes and consumer electronics was the last straw. The US had to reshore manufacturing, and the ban of Nvidia's high-end hardware for AI training was already underway by then. This was meant to keep China behind for another decade. Later, we'll see how they achieved the complete opposite. At the start of 2025, the world heard of a new AI model. Something unexpected happened. DeepSeek was launched. A Chinese AI model out of Hangzhou, built with far less resources than their American counterparts, but somehow it performed on par with the leading American labs. Everyone I knew was using the DeepSeek model. It was cheaper, it was far easier to get your hands on when you're living here in China. It became the default choice for many of my colleagues. I think this was the moment that the world started to question how far China really was behind, how they were able to catch up with so much less. In China, they call Trump the nation builder. He's not hated in the way that the general Western media wants him to be seen. In China, he's quite admired, but mostly for his ability to build up the Chinese economy by making them strengthen themselves. When DeepSeek launched, China's AI cloud stocks spiked. Investors suddenly realized that if China could compete on the model level, without access to any of these cutting-edge hardware, the entire valuation gap between the US and China tech stocks might eventually be misplaced. And signals at the time were buy, buy, and buy. For a few trading days, the Hang Seng Tech Index saw one of the fastest rallies, and everyone I knew was watching their wealth grow overnight. Companies tied to AI infrastructure, compute, and cloud all surged on expectations that China could rise, and Nvidia crashed. At the time, that's all it took, a bit of fear, and the bubble could burst. So DeepSeek proved that China could innovate with far fewer resources, but that breakthrough created a new kind of pressure. Because if China was going to compete globally in AI, all they had to do was match the West. But then they started to think, if we can give these models away for free, we'll be able to spread the knowledge and our importance all around the world. So, while the US was pumping billions into model labs like Google, Meta, ChatGPT, and Anthropic, Alibaba did the one thing any Western CEO would never do. They gave their models away for free. This wasn't very exciting 6 months ago, as these Quen models weren't very great. They performed much cheaper than ChatGPT, but there was nothing really special that would make me switch. But as the models started getting better and the leaderboards would change every update cycle, we started to take notice. Alibaba was not being generous. They were being strategic. To understand why, we have to talk about the incentives. In America, the model is the product. You talk to ChatGPT. This is the product that they sell you. It's the valuation, the hype cycle, and this big promise of AGI. In China, the model is just a component. It's commoditized. Alibaba understood something that the Western market still hasn't digested. If the model becomes free, more people will start adopting their models, and they will be able to focus on creating world-class agentic AI products that they could sell to companies. And once the model layer is free, no competitor can justify charging that much for their models. Developers end up standardizing on these Alibaba models, and in the long run, companies will naturally fall into Alibaba's ecosystem. By giving away the models for free, Alibaba tried to collapse the margins of everyone else and protect the most profitable part of the stack. It was the infrastructure, inference, and enterprise development. This is the same strategy that Google used for Android. Make the core free. Pull the world in your ecosystem. But this time, it's not a phone. It's the operating system for enterprise AI. And here's the part that most Western audiences still don't realize. Most companies train AI in closed environments. Alibaba trains its AI in the real world, inside one of the largest commercial ecosystems on the planet. Every part of its business teaches the model something useful, from its logistics using Cainiao, e-commerce in Taobao and Tmall, to its financial payment services in Alipay. Because all of this sits under one roof, the model improves constantly, and as the model improves, it generates even better data, which improves the model once again. That is the flywheel. So here's the advantage that most Western companies can't match. Alibaba is already testing at a national scale, so when they walk into any company, any enterprise, they don't pitch some theory. They say, this system has been running in the wild with 300 million users and 10 billion transactions every single day. So once you've proven the model inside your own universe, selling it outside is easy. And here's something that is unique to China. Enterprise AI's success is not on benchmark or model sizes. It's determined by relationships. 关系. A major economic study of Chinese entrepreneurs found something quite remarkable. The direct impact of generative AI on corporate performance was meaningful, but the indirect impact was twice as significant. Why? Because in China, business is done differently. It's done through informal trust networks, personal connections, and relational capital. AI strengthened these networks in three specific ways. 1. Strategically. Managers walk into meetings armed with deeper, faster analysis. This builds their credibility. 2. Functionality. AI enables smoother communications across teams, partners, and regions. This builds reliability. And then 3rd, administratively. AI clears the manager's calendar by handling these routine tasks. This builds availability, time to maintain these one-on-one human relationships. So in China, the ROI on AI comes from something profoundly human. It enhances the manager, not replaces them. So for you investors, a few things will stand out. Temu wasn't about shopping. It was saying China can go direct to the consumers. DeepSeek wasn't just an AI model. It was saying China might not be as far behind America as some might think. And Alibaba's decision to go open source wasn't generosity. It was a strategy, a reminder that the true value in AI is not the model itself, but the development of these AI agents for enterprises. So when we look at companies, we try to look at these leverage points. Distribution, who controls the front end of global demand? Compute, who owns the hardware, software, full stack? Enterprise adoption, who can turn AI into real operational gains? There are early signals, but they're telling us where we should start looking. And for long-term investors, that's what matters. The future of AI doesn't always have to be shaped by the companies with the loudest headlines. But sometimes, some of these smaller companies can actually be a big threat. And all it takes is a bit of fear for the whole bubble to pop. I've written an article that goes into far more detail about this and also my price target for Alibaba. Anyway, that's how I see it from where I'm standing. Let me know what you're seeing on your side.